Welcome, everyone. My name is Mina Jane. I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library in Massachusetts, and I'm excited to be here with our monthly program with Jody Blanchette, or as you might know her, at Red Reviews. I do this all the time. So we are going to be talking about horror thriller books that Jody's been reading and recommending. I will send out a list afterwards, so you don't have to take notes if you don't want to. And yeah, let's go. Jody, I'm so excited to be here. I know last month we had some tech issues, so we weren't able to get through your entire list.
Yeah, I had but everybody that registered should have got a copy of that list of what I was going to talk about so they knew how to plan their Halloween readings TBR schedule. But now there's no Thanksgiving horror. There's no Thanksgiving thrillers. So I've got nothing for you for this holiday season coming up. So I guess we have to like read all those feel good crappy books so that you get the whole thankful and giving and blessed
No,
vibes.
no. And you know, just as a reminder, if you have anything you want to add or you want me to ask Jody, just put that in the chat and I will moderate that. But I need, like, I'm such a weenie when it comes to horror, you know this, but I'm like ready to like dig into something like something
Juicy? You want
beefy,
something juicy? I don't know.
juicy,
I might
something.
have one on my list that we're going to talk about tonight that you might want to read. But I do want to say that my book club at the library, we're picking a holiday themed thriller to read for next month, and the only thing I could come up with was The Christmas Guest by Peter Swanson. I've
Oh,
not read it yet. It's very thin. So if anybody has any like Christmas thriller recommendations, maybe drop those in the comments. I have a bunch of Christmas themed horror books that I'm going to bring up next month. But thrillers aren't really a Christmas thing. Like I know Lisa Unger tried to do one last year called Christmas Presents, I think. I think that's what it was called. It was like it took place during Christmas. It's like Die Hard. It took place during Christmas, so I guess that's what made it a Christmas book. But I want something like, Santa's the bad guy or something like that, like, but it's not a thing. So if anybody knows of any thriller Christmassy recommendations, hit me because I'm lost and I'm like, I need. So moving on from my needs, let's talk about your needs. So I'm going to start off suggesting a book that I think is going to be in my top three this year. I just finished it a couple weeks ago, and it was recommended by I can't think of her name right now. Sadie. She's the Mother Horror. It's called Where I End by Sophie White. It's what is it about? It's like it's living grief. So you know how you have people have family members that are pretty much brain dead, and but they won't pull the plug.
mhm.
So they live with that grief, and they're living out their grief for years for this person being dead, but they're not dead. Well, that's essentially what happens in this book, but it's a mother, and the daughter is brought up with her mother being, not all there and having to take care of her. And she lives with her grandmother and all the situation. And it gets to the point where she dehumanizes her mother and she starts referring to her as it or the thing or the mother thing. It's a strange start to the book because the mother is always referred to as it. But then you start to understand why, and you see how she got to where she is, and then she feels like she needs to take care of somebody, and she latches onto this woman in her village, but she's already taken care of somebody. She's taking care of her mother. So it's a very convoluted way of thinking. A lot of body horror in this one. It's really dark. There are moments where I stopped and had to read it out loud to my husband because I like to do that just to make him uncomfortable. But the thing is, I have to tell you, it's so beautifully written. Like that's a thing. You can have a beautifully written horror book. It's almost I want to say it's like a little masterpiece. It's like reading a gift of music. I don't know. It's just so my God, the first chapter is just her setting the scene, and it's just like she puts you there. It's just absolutely beautifully written, and it's dark and it's gross and it makes you uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable through most of the book, and it's very thought provoking. But like I said, it's uncomfortable, and there are some horror. But you know what? She doesn't really go into details. There's some it's just really uncomfortable. Really, I'm going to put it in I think my top 3 this year because it's just like it really messed me up.
Mhm. What is the setting on that book? Because you said it was a village.
Oh, I think it's Scotland. I think it
Oh,
takes place in Scotland
okay.
or Ireland. Um, I want to say it's Ireland. It's just it's so fucking good. Ooh. Um, so coming from something super hard and heavy, I'm going to go straight to a thriller that the last one at the wedding by okay, I'm going to say his name now. Jason Rikulik. I don't know what it is. So his book last year that he was like super famous for was Hidden Pictures. It became like a TikTok and a Bookstagram sensation. I thought it was okay. It wasn't my favorite book. This book was freaking amazing. Like for a thriller, like I even made my boss read it because it's not gory. It's straight up just thriller, suspenseful the whole way through. It's from the point of view of a father who gets a phone call saying that his daughter's getting married, and he hadn't talked to her in a really long time, and she wanted him at her wedding. He seems like he's a really nice guy. Um, why would she not be talking to him, right? So it goes into their relationship and how they got to where they were, and he goes to the wedding and he gets involved in her family, his family, the groom's family, and things are not as they seem. She's marrying into money, and of course where there's money there's lies and problems and scandal. There's a whammer of a freaking twist in this that you don't see coming, and I was definitely like, what the hell? It was one of those moments I'm like, okay then, and then you keep reading. This was a page turner. I finished it in one sitting. I can't recommend it enough for your libraries. This one will fly off the shelf. I am going to be lending this out to all my friends just because it was fantastic. It might be in my top 10. I didn't like his last book, but this book was really good. He gets points for that.
When you say it's a thriller, it sounds more like it's a psychological thriller rather than a.
No, this one is not psychological. There's nothing psychological about this. It's all on the freaking table until the twist. And then when the twist happens, it's still on the freaking table. Like it's very much, it's super fast-paced moving. There isn't really a mystery per se as much as little reveals that give you more for the storyline. It's not plot driven. It's more, I think it's character driven. It's the characters are really where it's at. The dad he's everything. He's who I'd want in a father. And his daughter, and then her family she's marrying into, or they're a bunch of rich scumbags. I don't know. It was really good. Mina, just read this one, please.
Okay.
And then you're gonna come back at me with it, and
Okay.
you're gonna say, Jody, you were right.
Okay. Thrillers I can do.
Okay, yeah, it's not gory. I lent this to my boss because she can't do gore, and she came back and said, "You got me," and I'm like, I know it's not. So, but I'm going to go back to gore.
Mm-hmm.
This one I read, and this was published a while ago. This is an indie author. He's from Connecticut. It's called Portrait of a Nuclear Family by J.P. Burns. Like, again, I really butcher names here. This is, so I go into books blind. I don't read the synopsis because sometimes I feel like the synopsis gives too much away. And this one was hyped up on one of my Facebook groups, Books of Horror, as an indie, a really great indie horror. I thought I was getting a book about a family that has found out that their son is like a budding psychopath,
Mm-hmm.
Killing off animals, dissecting animals. It's the first sign that something's wrong. It does start off like that, and then it becomes so much more than that. It goes in a direction I never saw coming. Without giving too much away, if anybody actually decides to read this one, it is heavy with gore. It's heavy with horror, and apparently taxidermy horror is a thing. Oh yeah, so that should say it all. If you can't deal with that, I learned stuff. My husband's a hunter, so I asked him questions while I was reading this book. I learned that you can tan a hide by using brains. Did you know that? Oh yeah, just put some in a blender and rub it
Oh,
all over the hide. Oh yeah, that's yeah, I know. You just threw up your dinner. I know. Yeah, well, that's the book. So taxidermy horror is in this. It starts off about the son, but becomes more about the mother.
mhm.
Uh, and trying to have the picture perfect family, trying to keep up appearances, and it really it touches on a lot. Even with all the gore, if you can get past all of the horror in the book, it actually is a deep message. So I freaking enjoyed this as much as it was. I closed the book and I was like, oh, but it was good.
Well, so when you say taxidermy horror, so like, is this like is this a trigger warning for people who cannot stand like gore for animals?
There is animal gore, there's animal abuse, all the bad triggers in there. If you can't do it, don't pick this one up. And then there's body horror with humans. So it's all the triggers. And I think that he has a trigger warning in the beginning of the book, but I don't think um this work contains graphic descriptions of animal cruelty, taxidermy, and both physical and mental abuse. I think that's sugarcoating it because that's not what I would have done for a trigger warning. I would have been like, "Don't read this if you can't deal with anything that has to do with animals." Or it's rough. It's rough.
So, look, okay, so I have to ask you, and maybe somebody in the our attendees will ask as well, is like, what is it, not charm, but like what is the why? Why do people read things like that? What is the purpose? Like what does it do?
Okay, so are you talking about animal horror in general?
Yeah, well,
Like why
this
do
one
people
that you said was particularly gory.
Okay, so it's particularly gory. I mean, it's a horror book. I'm expecting gore, but I think it is relevant to the story. Now, sometimes people just throw it in there for a little bit of a wow factor, and I don't like that. But if it's relevant to the story and it really does become what this whole book is about, um, you really need that gore of the animals to get to the gore than what happens in the humans, because the human stuff is by far worse than what happens to our cute little cuddly animals. Um, it's humans. Humans are the monsters. I guess that it's the way that sets the transition into where it's actually important for this book.
Mhm.
So you have to you have to brace yourself.
And again, I'm not a huge horror reader because I'm a weenie, but like the
Don't read this one.
again, attraction for that. Like what do we get out of it as a reader, somebody who does like horror? You know, is it cathartic? Is it like, oh, I know what to look out for from a person who has eyeballs like that? I don't know. Like what is it? What is it that keeps you reading something like that?
Well, for me, it's not cathartic. I don't get any of that. For me, I like seeing that the author went there. To me, it's pushing limits.
Mhm.
If an author is willing to really describe things down to the taste, to the touch, if I can feel it and sense it, to me, that author has done it. He's achieved what their discomfort. Yes, Christine, why aren't you doing this? You know what I'm talking about. It's real and it's raw and it's gross. And sometimes you want to feel that. Sometimes you want to see it and that's not in your own personal life. I'm not out there butchering animals and stuff. You know, it's
Good, good. But I still like, and I won't perseverate on this, but like I do wonder if you go for our darker horror when things aren't great in the world or things aren't great in your world. Is that a thing that for some reason, like when your own world is dark, you want darker horror?
let me tell you, after last week, I have been searching out the darkest books that I can find because I need that escape of this world is pretty freaking dark. I need to escape to another darker level that should never ever happen. Realistically, the stuff that I'm reading should never happen, and that seems better than what's happening in the world today.
So, so as most everybody knows, I'm a romance reader. So like for me, the escape is to do something completely light and fluffy. It's completely opposite directions.
That's why you're the yin to my yang, man. You're the light and fluffy. I'm the dark and scratchy. Like that's why we work well together.
All right. Well, I'm gonna call you Scratchy from now on. Okay. All right. I just had to ask because that it just seemed like
Gross, and there's no point in it, but there's a point there.
no, not that there's no point in it, but that was a particularly dark book that I haven't heard you talk about like that before.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I'm not drawn to that stuff generally.
Mhm.
Like I said, it was hyped, so I wanted to read it because it was hyped, and it's a Connecticut author, and I'm all about supporting my Connecticut authors. But it was really well written and just shocking and real. And if you can move on from the really horrible aspects of it, the end, it's worth it. But can't move on from the real aspects of the real world. Anyways, so going on to another book. I'm taking you on a roller coaster. We're going up and down, up and down, up and down tonight.
I'm with
This, I don't know if this is, I don't know what you would call this. It's not a thriller, but I read it from my book club, my at-home book club. The Many Mothers of Ivy Puddingstone by Randy Susan Myers. So I don't know if you heard about this one. I don't know if it's considered women's fiction. I don't know what it is. But the publisher sent me a whole bunch of copies, and I was like super psyched to reread it. So a lot of my book club didn't like it. They thought it was too slow. I latched onto this book because it's so relevant. It takes place in the 60s and 70s when people were freedom marching and women were taking control of their bodies and fighting for their rights. And it's so fire. I'm going to swear. Oh my God, I just stopped myself. Did you see that? That was a beat. It's so relevant to what's happening now that it sucked me in. I should have been around in the 60s because I would have been a picketer or a marcher. I would have rioted. I would have been getting tear gas and mustard gas because we need to do that now. So this is, it's about the revolution, women and men, and they, particularly in this group, they join together and make a commune, and they want to have a better life for their children, living off the land and mothering each other's children and just supplying their family with love. So it's from the perception of one of the women in the commune, and then the second half of the book is from the perspective of the child. But it's completely relevant to I want to live in a commune. I mean, I keep saying I want to have a cult, but I think a commune's probably better. I don't know. I love this. I love fighting for our rights. I love that time period. It just, you were totally transported back there. It was really good. I don't know. My book club sucks because they thought it was slow. I started it and I was like sucked in. And I don't read this crap.
I think she lives in this area in the Boston area.
Oh, really?
I feel like I've met her. So yeah, definitely women's fiction. If you look up her other books, definitely women's fiction.
Have you read this one?
No, I haven't. I haven't read anything by her since like an early book of hers, like I don't know, like 2015 maybe. And I'm
Okay.
pretty sure I met her. So I'll have to look her up again. But
Well, I know that she's touring. I'm pretty sure I think she's going to Brookline, like the second week of December or something. Maybe it's in November. And I was going to go see her, but I can't that day. And like I said, that's not my genre. This is not my go-to genre. But for my private book club, we read pretty much everything. You're going to love this. We're reading Bridgerton next. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So we're gonna have a tea party. Everybody wants to dress up in costume. I'm not dressing up. If I can wear like a black thing I want to do the giant wig though, with a little opening. Like I feel like I could do that. So we're reading Bridgerton. So I'm not afraid to go outside my genre. I fight it and I complain about it the whole time and make everybody angry, but I sacrifice for my book club because not everybody is evil like me. So back to horror. Did I talk about this last time or the week
oh
before?
yes, just at the
I
very
did mention this.
yeah.
Okay,
You were starting
because
at that point.
that's when we started to lose me. Okay, so she was CJ Lead, American Rapture. She wrote Mayfly. Mayfly was in my top 3 last year. This I think I'm gonna have to make like a top 5 because I think this is gonna be my tops as well. It's fantastic, and if you find me on Instagram, I recreated the cover of this book using my daughter and a corgi blanket, and she became the saint of corgis for this picture, because there is a dog in this book and it does die. Just going into that, letting you all know, he's not a main character, but you do fall in love with him. And from what I understand, CJ wrote this after her dog passed away. So it was very important to put that dog in the book, which I just loved.
Yeah.
but it's a coming of age in the middle of a pandemic, and religion's a huge factor in this. This girl was completely sheltered and is just thrown out into the world and figuring out what's real and what's not real from her perspective of religion and what society wants her to believe. Really well done. Of course, CJ she's amazing. She does put gory stuff in there. Some stuff is always a little outrageous, but she's just awesome. And I met her 2 weeks ago, and it was awesome. And I just wanted to like touch her. She came over to where I was making a drink at the bar, and she's like, "Hi, I'm CJ." I'm like, "Oh, I know who you are." Like,
Jody's one of my favorite author stalkers.
It's like, don't be walking in here thinking I don't know who you are.
I think she did something. I think she did something recently with Rachel Harrison and Clay McLeod Chapman, and they just looked like they had a blast.
Oh my God, that's like the dream team. Seriously, when the three of them, like Clay he is just amazing. And you put him with CJ, who is just the nicest human, and Rachel, who is just gorgeous and perfect, and the three of them together. And the three of them were at the event I went to 2 weekends ago, Horror on the Hudson.
Yes,
and
that looked like so much fun.
Oh my God, it was my life. I can't even tell you. We ate dinner with the authors. We campfire stories like around the fireplace, and they hung out with me, and you're just sitting there, just sipping on a drink, and they just hang out and talk to you. But I got to meet so many readers too. Some of my followers that I've never met, and it was just the conversation and the book talk. And I got to have Christine had me do I don't want to call it a panel, it was book discussion. And I got to lead a book discussion, which was supposed to be a fight between me and Christine on what our best books were, but she bailed on me because she sucks. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Christine. So she left me alone, and it became this book discussion with about 30 people. With about 30 people that participated. It wasn't just me talking. Everybody had something to say, and it was just organically went in one direction, and it was so cool. It was
and so that cool. Was Horror on the Hudson.
Yeah, yep. And Christine's gonna do it again next year, but she's also doing like 4 spin-offs. She's even taking people to Transylvania.
Okay, Christine, keep me informed.
Yeah, you know Christine at the library thing. That's fantastic.
Yes, I did.
Yes, she's so much fun. But she created this whole event, and then she had swag, and there was gifts, and there was like really cool centerpieces. Like, seriously, who does that? She's got too much time on her hands now that she's retired. I want to be that cool and I'm retired. Back to the books. ADHD moment. How much time do I have?
You have 7 minutes.
Ooh, okay, so I have a book that I don't have because I listened to it, called The First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. That's another one that was getting a lot of hype. I think it's out. I don't think I read it early. I think it's out. That one's about a woman who moves in with her boyfriend, and he's not who you think he is, but then you find out she's not who you think she is. Without giving it away, it's very Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Like, Angelina Jolie and all that. They're both hiding stuff from each other. She's just this really complex character that, oh my God, it just becomes this really insane thriller that you don't expect to happen. Like I said, I go into these books blind, so I'm like, oh, it's a domestic suspense book. Yeah, no, it's not. It's just a fast-moving thriller. Really good. I finished that in one sitting. Audiobook was really good. Another one I have is The Book of Witching by C.J. Cook. Now, I've read a couple of C.J. Cook books. They were okay. This one was really, really good. I think I might have, no, maybe I didn't talk about this one. I think this one's in Ireland. I'm reading a lot of international writers lately. This one's about this young girl who falls into like this witchy cult, and they find her on a beach, and she's unconscious, and her friend is murdered, and her friend is missing, and I think she's burned up. And they're trying to figure out how all this happens. And then another perspective in the book is of these witch trials that happened back in the day, because I don't know the exact date, but I'm pretty sure you all know what I'm talking about. It doesn't take place in Salem. It takes place out there in Ireland, I believe. And it's a witch hunt, and it's her burning sort of parallels and they merge and they become it's like important. I'm not explaining this good enough. It was a good book. It was witchy. I
Mhm.
needed it for the Halloween season.
So it was about like considered
Real witches and not real
people
witches.
that were like burned at the stake for witches, even though they weren't. So it was kind
Yeah.
of defined that
And
way.
and then the present day narrative was them trying to bring back that old witchy vibe. And things go wrong. There is some supernatural stuff there. It's hard to explain. I'm not explaining this one good. Probably should have brought it up because I
Oh,
can't explain it.
that's okay.
But
Well,
it's witchy.
and then we'll come back and say it was exactly what you said.
Never said that. Everybody thinks I jump around too much. Like I said, I got ADHD. So my next book is a thriller, and it's by one of my favorite local writers, Tessa Wiegert. This is The Coldest Case. I think this is book number 5 or 6 in her Shannon Merchant series. Um, you don't need to read them all in order. You don't need to read them all to enjoy the book. Reading them all does help. You get a better sense of who she is and who her background characters are. This one takes place, all of her books take place in the Thousand Islands. And apparently, and this is based on real stuff, there is a little island of Thousand Islands that is only accessible by water. And there's like 25 people living on this island, and they winter on the island. And the only way to access it is to go over the ice.
Hmm.
So what they do is snowmobile and airboats over the ice. And I guess they put like Christmas trees. They bury Christmas trees into the ice so they have a path so they know where the good ice is. That's all real. And she put that in this book, which is very cool. So there's a murder on the ice. The body goes missing because it like went under the water or whatever. And they got to figure out who the murderer is. And it's got to be like one of the islanders that are there because there's no way to get to the island. So it's I think of it as a locked room
Mhm.
because you're locked on the island,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It's very cluish. One by one, you sort of figure everybody's a suspect, so you've got to kind of like pop them all off to figure out who it actually is. I did not see who it was coming. Now, 90% of the time, by the third chapter in on a thriller or a mystery, I can figure out who it is. And I'm always satisfied when I know who it is by the end. I'm not disappointed. It just makes the book more, okay, I figured it out. I did not know who it was. And the reveal, I was like, shut up. And it makes complete sense. And it was awesome that I did not figure it out. If I don't figure it out, that tends to make me give a book a 5 star, because I'm really hard to trick. I usually know really quick. So it was really good. And the main character is pregnant in this one. So it's a struggle because you've got these pick up a thriller every now and then. This is a good thriller. This is a good series, the Shannon Merchant series. I really like this one. All of her books are, there's always a mystery, there's always a murder, and there's always great backstory. And they're like super thin. Like, oh, so good.
I read it reminds me of that book. Is it Agatha Christie? And then there were none.
Yeah, yeah. That's the one everybody goes to with saying that's like a locked room or
Yeah.
not read.
Oh, it's so good. And it's very short.
We read an Agatha Christie for book club and nobody liked the book. So now I'm not allowed to like bring her back in. Well, it was I'm gonna say it wrong. A Poirot.
Oh, Perot, yeah.
Is that right? Did I say it right?
You did. Look at that. You couldn't get it any of the authors, right?
Right. It was a Poirot thriller or mystery. And like nobody in my book club liked it. And then they were comparing it to like all the TV shows they've seen with his characters and talking about his appearance or whatever. And I'm like, I kind of liked it. But every time I bring her up again, I get shot down. So I don't know that we're ever going to do Agatha. I'm like, guys, she's like the inventor of thrillers and mysteries. I feel like we need to show her respect and read all of her books. But, you know, I got an unruly group of like 60-year-old women who are like, no, we want dark, we want thrillers. This is going to do it for us. I'm like, oh, God.
Well, if you do have to read another one, The Body in the Library was one of my favorites. The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie.
Okay.
Yeah, do it. Do it on your own if you want.
I'm going to have to because my book club sucks. I had them read, we read the Paul Tremblay, The Cabin in the Woods
Mhm.
for Halloween. And I told them ahead of time, I'm like, October, Halloween horror, bear with me. And I make them read it. And they all come to book club. And there's like half of them were like, this was great. I want to read his whole backlist. And I'm like, yes, yes, I did it. And then the other half is like, Jody, that was horrible. That was like really dark, and it takes you it's the end of the world. Like, it was horrible. And I'm like, that's the whole point of horror, guys. But the discussion we had was great. It was like an hour of discussion, really dissecting the book, which you don't get a lot. And I like it when some people like the book and some people don't like the book, because then you really have great discussion. But I also like the fact that it made people want to read his backlist, which is my goal. So,
Absolutely. Actually, we are out of time, so we're going to have to continue this next month. And for everybody who's here, Jody did agree to do this again next year. Same time, well, same time of month, but we're going to move it to 7:30 p.m. So I'll have links for everybody for that as in probably pretty soon.
another year.
I know, woo, so many books. Anyways, thank you so much for doing this. I always enjoy this our
I
discussion.
love it too.
Good. And everybody, thanks for your for coming and all of your funny comments that I always enjoy, and happy reading. I'll send out that list soon. Bye, everybody.